Last year, I grew my tiny at-home business working out of my garage from $70,000 to $200K on eBay, and today I'm going to share the 4 lessons that I've learned that allowed me to scale in just 12 months and how you can use them to improve your small business with less time and less effort. So one of the most important lessons that I learned in 2022 that allowed me to ramp up to 200K in revenue was picking and sticking to a niche. For the first few years that I was selling on eBay, I was pretty much shopping around trying to get anything I could get my hands on. I was getting books and games, DVDs, shoes, pretty much anything that would turn a profit, and it works for some people, but for me, it was quite limiting in my ability to scale up the business to where I wanted to get to, and I really had to hone in and figure out what niche I wanted to stick with long term. After doing this model for a while, I could feel the store kind of plateauing, and I knew I needed to make a change and I guess figure out what kind of niche I wanted to settle into so I could just scale and grow the business with the same type of item over and over again. So once I committed to a specific category and type of item that I wanted to sell, which is used clothing, it became a lot simpler to operate my business, and I also had to cut some extra platforms out as well. So I was using 2 or 3 platforms thinking I was optimizing the amount of sales I was getting, but ultimately I needed to rein it all into one category, one niche, and one platform. So once I chose to niche down into clothing, it also made me take a good hard look at the types of tasks and processes and inventory that I was using in my business, and I basically had to do a very hard 80-20 analysis on what I was spending my days doing and how I could possibly improve my store so I wasn't wasting time on unnecessary tasks or unnecessary types of items. This allowed me to trim the fat on a lot of the stuff that I was doing and make a very simplified strategy for how I do my day-to-day operations. After doing an audit on almost every little thing that I was doing and trying to figure out which 20% of the tasks were producing 80% of the results, I actually realized very few things were helping the business grow and actually not increasing the top line sales whatsoever. A lot of the things that I was doing prior to choosing a single niche and platform was a complete waste of time, to be honest, and not really doing anything to increase my revenue in hindsight. And by cutting them out completely, it allowed me to start listing twice as many items as I had previously in the same amount of time, which brings me to my next point. Working on my business while it was a side hustle was a lot of fun, and it allowed me to start to understand the basics of business in terms of customer service and inventory management and cash flow. But when it's part-time, there's not that added pressure of trying to have a really optimized system and strategy or structure to how everything's operated. After 3 years of this sort of sporadic, random strategy, I decided to quit my job, maybe foolishly, and jump into this thing full time and see what I could make of it. And once I was completely dependent on making this thing work and being able to replace my income, I had a lot of lessons to learn about how to manage my energy, my emotions, my time, and my effort. But here's the problem. I didn't do that at all for the entire first year. I still treated my newly started business as a hobby realistically, and kind of was directionless, floating from task to task every day thinking, hell yeah, this self-employed thing is really easy, but it couldn't be further from the truth. Mix in the on again, the off again lockdowns of 2021, and I probably spent a good 70% of the year without any real clear vision or system for success. But this started to change once I bit the bullet and went all in on my niche of used clothing, and I guess I started to have a more laser refined approach than a shotgun approach of buy and sell everything I can get my hands on. Now with a little bit of focus, something I neglected up until this point, I could start to improve on the speed and execution of the simple and repeatable processes that would eventually allow me to scale up to 200K revenue in 1 year. I started to track and time every little thing that I was doing so I could work out the average time that each task took. Once I figured that out, that was the big unlock. I could extrapolate that data and project how much time would take to scale up the business and how much projected profits and revenue I could make on any given day, week, month, or year. And then I got a little bit nerdy and made a spreadsheet formula, creatively named Formula of Potential. And once I worked out that, it was a very valuable lesson in terms of how much my time is actually worth. It was such a different approach to what I was doing just 12 months ago when I had no clue about how my time or money was being spent or how I could even potentially scale this business. It almost became a bit robotic in a sense, but just figuring out where my time was used and where my time was lost was so crucial for getting me from 70 to 200K in revenue. But having a robotic workflow is basically pointless if your workspace isn't clearly defined and organized. While my garage that I use for my business isn't perfect, it's at least 100 times more practical and efficient compared to some of the previous configurations. Previously, I could spend up to 5 minutes trying to find a tape measure or something crucial for my business, but now everything has its own home, there's no clutter, and there's no confusion when I need to go and find that one tool that I need. The biggest secret I can give to you guys about using your space wisely is to maximize every cubic inch. The key for me is having a clear strategy for where everything goes and why it goes there. And when you can maximize every cubic inch, you're actually saving money on operational costs because you're not paying or using more shelving space than you necessarily need. I've watched this video about Burbank Sports Cards a while ago, which is one of eBay's largest buyers and sellers of sports cards, and was kind of inspired about how they store and use all their storage space to maximize their gigantic warehouse. They use an organized cardboard box or boat system to store all their inventory, and it's all based on numbers and colors and simple codes that anyone can pick up. Not only is it easy to locate stock, but it's also really easy to teach someone new in the business to come and figure out how things operate. Whether they're 8 or 80, everything is so simplified, there's no room for confusion. Being self-employed and working from home or in your garage, in my case, can come with a lot of challenges and distractions to your workday, whether it's a pet, the temptation of a fridge, or social media. So it's really necessary, in my opinion, to create clear boundaries to get the job done as efficiently and as fast as possible. What's really worked for me over the last 12 months is valuing my work time more and not dilly-dallying around tasks all day. And that really comes down to creating a structure and a calendar that works for you. In my opinion, you've got to have a calendar, and it has to create balance in your life. You have to have enough time to get your work done, but also to focus on other things like diet and exercise, family time, and leisure. And like I said earlier, once I could figure out exactly how much time everything took, I could basically reverse engineer my week in my Google Calendar, put in how long every task of my job took, and then the rest could be filled in for mental health exercises, physical health exercises, leisure time, date night, all that good stuff. A super important point that I want to make here, and it's something that I neglected honestly for the whole first year of being self-employed, is you need to pepper in activities that are going to inspire you, reinvigorate you, re-energize you, so you're not doing work 24/7 and you're actually getting around to things that matter in your life more than the business. I can't overemphasize enough how important that is. It's something that I didn't do enough of, and I'm always working at getting better at, and it would have prevented a lot of feelings of burnout or stress that were completely unnecessary. Being self-aware and reflective about what adds or drains energy from you and your business is super important, and you need to understand what makes you tick. And for me, it's been a game changer for allowing me to balance my lifestyle and to get through 2022 relatively unscathed. If you're struggling with starting or growing or scaling your business, I really think trying to pick a niche that works for you, as well as maximizing your time and your space, will make a huge difference to how you operate your life and business. Honestly, this time last year, I was struggling with all 4 of these aspects. I had no focus, no vision. I had no idea how to improve or grow my business. This video will show you just how lost I truly was.